Hello, everybody. Sheridan Ganger here with HelpShift. I'm thrilled today to be joined by Jeremy McKechnie from Dramafever. Hello, Jeremy.
Hey, Sheridan. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful 80-degree day here in San Francisco. How is it over there in New York?
It's a little chilly, but
A little chilly?
yeah.
Nice. Well, we're so thrilled that you could join us today for our webinar. Just to give a little bit of insight to our audience on this webinar series, back in March, we hosted the MORE Summit, which stands for Mobile Engagement and Retention at the St. Regis, where we hosted a handful of different thought leaders in the industry to really kind of get into the nitty-gritty around the value of user retention and engagement. And our community basically came forth and said, Sheridan, I want to continue these conversations and I want to continue to learn more from the people that are on the front lines of customer support. So why don't you host a webinar series? So that's what we have been doing. Jeremy, you are our third guest in this 6-part series. So we're thrilled to have you here to talk about kind of joining forces and how to really maintain that brand promise as you scale globally. So Jeremy is the Director of Customer Support at Dramafever. So if you can just give our audience a little bit of insight on who you are and why you're here and what are you looking to achieve today?
Sure. So first of all, thank you for having me. Yeah, like Sheridan said, I'm the Director of Customer Support at Dramafever. I've been here for about 2.5 years. Started out and it was just a team of one, me running support for the entire company. Today we're a team of 10. I've worked in support for 6 years. Yeah, I'm just excited to share, how I've been using HelpShift and, how we think about customer support here at Dramafever.
Awesome. That's a great introduction, Jeremy. As I said, we're going to be talking about scaling globally, and the fact that you guys are just a team of 10, you're going to be able to provide our audience some very juicy insights into how to take your mobile app global. So I'm ready to just get into it. Are you?
I'm ready.
Awesome. But before we get started, one more thing that I forgot to mention, we want this to be really interactive. So we have our HelpShift team working in the background on Twitter to answer any questions and engage through the conversation. So please use the hashtag #AskHelpShift and we will be there right along with you. So Jeremy, how many markets does Dramafever operate in? Could you give us a little kind of global scope of your business?
Sure. So first off, Dramafever is actually more than one brand now. We recently launched a new content vertical called .club in partnership with ANC. So, and then we're also about to launch a new content vertical called Shutter, which is for horror films. Dramafever is our first brand and vertical, and it's for internet, to bring people the best international TV shows on demand.
Awesome.
So Dramafever is available in all of North and South America, UK, Canada, Australia, and a few countries in the Middle East. .club is available worldwide. So we've got definitely most markets, a presence in most markets.
And how quickly did you guys go from just being in one market to kind of expanding your brand globally so swiftly? Can you speak to a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, on Dramafever, it kind of just happened overnight. The product that we're offering is TV shows. So once we had secured the rights to distribute that content in new markets, so Latin America, for example, it was just a matter of changing a setting on our side to allow that content to be streamed there. And so it really happened very quickly.
Awesome. So can you give our audience, just before we really get into kind of the gist of this event, how is your customer support team kind of structured? How are they based, or do you have people in multiple regions? Can you just give a little bit of background on that team?
Yeah. So we have 4 full-time people in our office here in New York. And then we have 6 part-time remote people that are helping out from the East and West Coast.
Got it. Got it. So really, what is the brand promise that you and Dramafever are looking to deliver from the front line of your customer support, right? You're on the front lines of your customers, you're speaking to them every day, you're making sure they get the help they need at their point of need. Kind of globally, how do you guys really perceive yourself as a brand, and what's your mission to engage with your customers?
You know, really the most important thing, kind of how I've viewed customer support here, and you know, the promise of what I can bring from our team to the company is from that product perspective. So what are our customers and our viewers saying about how they're interacting with our apps and our website? You know, what are the issues that they're experiencing? And really just finding ways to just improve the service that we're offering every time we make an update to the site. We're almost trying to make it so that people don't have to contact us.
Okay, so you really value kind of that self-service model.
Yeah, and really the self-service model for, you know, those common questions, but really just eliminating the need for asking a question at all. We want to make the product as intuitive as possible, so that you know, people just want to, you know, sit on their couch and watch their favorite show. They don't want to figure out how to do that.
Exactly. So kind of what were the first steps that you took to kind of build an experience for your customers, for your viewers, to make sure that, one, they're having kind of a seamless interaction with your app, and two, if and when they do need help, how are you servicing them?
Sure. So, you know, specifically on our mobile apps, we are, you know, trying to match what we're providing on our website. So if you're on our website, it's pretty easy to click a link and send us an email. That's, you know, that's a lot stickier when you're on an app. You don't want to have to send the user outside of the app. So, you know, problems come up, and we want to, what we find a lot is that people just aren't telling us the problems that they have. And so it's really hard for us to know if we're not getting the feedback. So the more we can make it simpler for people to send us their feedback and their questions and their concerns, the better we can make the product.
How do you encourage people to give feedback? I know that when I'm using multiple different, you know, apps on my phone, like sometimes I'm busy, sometimes I'm engaged, and I really don't want to take that extra step. How do you kind of evolve around that hiccup and really encourage your users to give you feedback, rather than, let's say, going to the App Store and giving you maybe perhaps a negative review?
Yeah. So, you know, like one thing as an example is, no matter how hard we try, the app is always going to crash sometimes. And one thing we do is, as soon as it crashes, when the end user opens it back up, they get a little dialogue with just kind of like a nice little message asking them to submit that crash to us. When they do, they get a response from us, you know, that we're looking into it, and we can really dive into what's driving those crashes, so we can fix it for an update. And that helps, you know, steer that feedback towards us instead of to the App Store.
Okay, great. So how do you ensure, while you're having these kind of one-off conversations from your, you know, your customer support team to your end user, that you really maintain that quality, kind of that personal level of engagement? Because that's, you know, that's really important as you scale and, you know, you grow your app globally, to really make sure that every user is happy, that they're, you know, happy using your app, that really transform them into being kind of what we call, you know, like your brand advocates.
Yeah. So, you know, we really think about every conversation that comes in as that it is conversation. So there isn't a boilerplate template to use for every single one of those conversations because they're all different.
Yeah.
We frequently get people asking like, why did the show end that way? Or is there going to be a sequel? And what should I watch next? So we want to just, build those relationships with people so that they are more willing to come to us to let us know what they need in the future.
Great. So with your user base, as you kind of framed earlier in our conversation, is scattered all over the world, as well as kind of all the noise that is incorporated during, that involvement. How do you maintain the customized interactions, like you said, and then how do you segment your support?
Yeah. So we basically view our markets as the language of the subtitle. So all of our content is subtitled. Most of the shows that we have are Korean dramas from Japan, Taiwan, China. But the vast majority of the people that are watching don't speak those languages. So we, view our markets by the language of the subtitle because that kind of dictates what they're able to watch and just their experience within the app. So we have filters set up so that we're easily separating all of the, right now we are providing support in Spanish, Portuguese, and English. So we have help shift set up so that we can, easily pull out all of the separate issues that are coming in and make sure the right people on our team can get to them as quickly as possible.
How do you see the value there to be able to kind of scale your support while using kind of multi-language kind of support? How did you roll that out? Was there a lot of training involved? Can you give us just a little bit more insight into how you scaled that program globally?
Yeah. So, we started, just as we kind of from one day to the next expanded into new markets, we kind of from one day to the next started rolling out subtitles in different languages. So as we did that, that was the first step, and then we had to kind of catch up with the product. So having the ability to have separate FAQs that are in the languages that we support, based on the language of the device, the end user's language, is, it's really tailoring the full product experience to what they want and need.
Got it. So can you give us a little bit of insight? And I know that during our conversation yesterday, I said I might ask some questions that are a little bit gated, but how do you measure your support organization? What KPIs does your team have to hit to make sure that they're successful and then keep your customers happy so that they don't, delete your app?
Yeah, I mean, we're, from customer support standpoint, we're measuring things like response time. We're watching the volume of issues that come in and trying to dig into why spikes are happening from, one app release to the next. We track, customer satisfaction with our responses. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for that insight. And we can actually get into that a little bit further down in our conversation. So how do you guys manage interruptions? I know you talked a little bit about, you ask people that you let them know that a bug happened or that there was a crash, but, other things do happen. So how do you really kind of align your community to make sure that, one, people stay happy, that your support organization is equipped to handle kind of the influx when things do go wrong? And how do you kind of tackle that? Because as we know, technology isn't always our friend, and sometimes we're dealt with some crashes, some issues.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things, occasionally the site just isn't there when the user wants it. So that'll definitely result in a lot of volume and a really quick time span. We are able to, get the message out to people that are, following us on social or even looking for an answer in our FAQ. Otherwise, we can do bulk replies. Basically, what people are looking for is just kind of a quick answer like it's wrong. They're not upset when you tell them that you know what's happening and you're working on it.
Mm-hmm.
You have an estimate of when it's going to be back up. It's really what they're upset about is not knowing what's going on. So
Okay.
like that information as quickly as possible is really helpful.
So it seems that you guys really value transparency when it comes to how you guys are communicating with your customer base.
Definitely.
Okay. And do you take that transparency to your community, let's say on social media? Are you guys pretty open about letting your audience, your community, your users, your fans, your followers know when things are going wrong? And do you kind of listen to them and take that feedback and put it to product? How does that kind of flow work?
Yeah, definitely. Thankfully it doesn't happen barely at all anymore. But when around the time that I first started, we were really scaling for that traffic growth that we were experiencing. So there was a period where the site was down for 3 days in a row.
Wow, that's a long time.
That was a long time.
What did you guys do? How did you combat that? Because we always kind of throw this number around, but 80% of apps are deleted within the first 30 days. So if you're not giving your users, your viewers, the best experience over 3 days, How did you recover that?
Totally. So what we did is we have a very passionate core user base.
Okay.
And we really leveraged their support. So we were providing constant updates on Facebook and on Twitter. Just really, honestly, my team by that point, there were more people in the organization jumping in to help, just to really provide people with individual responses where they felt like it turned into everyone rooting for us versus hating on us for not, being there for those few days.
That's good to hear. You said something that resonated with me. You have a core user base. How did you develop that? Kind of what's the secret sauce for Dramafever that you're able to, one, grow a community quickly, and two, be confident enough that when things do go wrong, they're going to stick with you through the issue?
Yeah, I think what it's about is really identifying those people that are, sharing their story when they're contacting you with an issue.
Okay.
They're writing, maybe 80% of the people are writing in and just saying the app crashed. And from that, you can't really gauge what their level of kind of commitment or support of your brand is. And then we have, maybe 10%, just like the solid group of people that write in and say, hey, like I was home watching with my family and then it crashed right in the middle. Just really sharing how that impacted them. And then we can, write back and relate and identify those users and build a relationship with them over time so that, when a site change is about to go live, we can maybe send them a beta version and see what they think about it, make sure it's working on their end first. And we really have come to rely on their feedback when we try new things or things sometimes go wrong.
That's great. And that kind of ties into the next kind of question that I have around kind of like scaling workflow. So it sounds like you guys are really able to identify kind of your main promoters, your main advocates, but how, as you guys are scaling globally across, these different markets that you introduced earlier in the call, how are you guys visualizing your workflow to really accommodate that? Because giving individual support is great, but sometimes it's just not possible. So how are you kind of automating that to make sure that you are delivering that customer excellence to everyone across the world?
Yeah. We are very transparent in our knowledge base, our public knowledge base. So, if we know that there's an issue, a specific issue on our app or on our site, we're going to publish it and let people know that, we're aware this is when it's going to be fixed. Here's a workaround in the meantime if there is one. And that, just from the before and after of publishing that, it just cuts back on the volume right away. And the reason being is there's not much we can do about those known issues in the short term. And then, there's some just kind of automation tricks we have based on.
Can you give us some of those tricks?
Yeah, like based on keywords or, if someone's contacting us written in Spanish, but from the English app, we know basically 99% of the time what they're asking us, and it's, how can they put on Spanish subtitles? So we can automate a response to them, and if that's not the right response, occasionally they'll just write back right then, and we can jump in and tailor it more specifically. But generally we want to at least when it's possible to take a pretty educated guess on what the user is going to be contacting us about. We want to just try and get ahead of ourselves and provide them with something, some sort of response.
So you would say providing response is better than not providing response, even if it means taking an educated guess, because that's something I've been talking to a handful of our customers over the past couple of months. And a lot of the feedback that I've been given when asking that question is that they kind of scramble, or they're trying to really identify how to give the right answer, when sometimes, as you just said, maybe just kind of taking a guess, taking all the information that you have at your fingertips to try to deliver that piece of support at that moment of time could work.
Right. Even, even just a standard reply that says, we got your question, we're working on it. In the meantime, if you haven't already, just take a look at the FAQs. You might find it there. And the reason really is that we are a small team. We don't provide 24/7 support. Even if we did, there's going to be, even when we're fully staffed during the day and answering people pretty quickly, there's still, a gap of 10, 15, 20 minutes. So that gap is long enough that if the person doesn't have the answer that they want, they're just going to leave. Especially if it's like a blocker to using the service. So taking that guess with the caveat of, we might be wrong, but, try this or read this. And if that's not what you were looking for, like, don't worry, we're going to come and help you. I think is effective.
Great. So you did also just say something that resonated that I haven't heard, is you don't provide 24-hour support. So how do you manage that kind of off time when, yes, you and your team need to be sleeping and recharging for the next day? How do you manage that to make sure that people know, one, you'll be there and you'll get to them at some point soon, but to let them also know that they're not going to get the answer they need right then? Yeah.
So, we want people to know that we have received their feedback. And like I mentioned, when possible, we want to provide them with just a jump start on information that we might provide them.
I like that jump start.
Yeah. And, we want to make sure that everyone knows that they will get a response from us if they need one. And we are going to be there for them, even if we can't be there right that second.
Okay, it once again comes down to transparency. So you've covered a lot about how this core community really provides you guys the feedback you need to scale globally. But let's flip that. How does this feedback actually decrease your cost of user acquisition? Because people are always asking that, well, how do I drive down my cost of user acquisition? So, I mean, sounds like you guys have a pretty good strategy. Can you get a little bit into it?
I mean, we are just looking daily and summarizing weekly at the feedback that we are getting from the users that we have. And the users that we have are really the best indicator of who the users are that we want in the future. So providing those users with a great experience and the features that they want in the future or the features that they want to be better. Besides just word of mouth, that we benefit from those users. It's also by implementing their feedback, the next new visitor that comes to the site is going to stick around longer because we're providing those features that our current user base had requested.
Yeah, so you're delivering on that brand promise as we kind of discussed earlier. So we actually have a question coming in from the audience, and it's gonna take us a little bit from our flow, but that's totally okay. As I said, this is an interactive session. We are here for our community online. What was the biggest challenge when trying to scale international support as quickly as you did? I added that piece on the end.
One of the hardest things was, for example, our partner site, Doc Club, is just an English language site. So no matter what market you're in, it's for English speakers. It's different than Dramafever, where we are localized in the language that the user wants and needs. And what was hard was catching the product up to all of the different types of rules that our content has, and really matching the functionality of the product to what our different market users needed. So, when we first launched in Latin America, users would go onto the app and just see all the content that we have. But that caused a lot of confusion because a lot of the content that we have, those users couldn't watch. So, the next step was only showing the content to them that is available to them. And just from each iteration, just getting the app more and more localized and the experience really, we built our site for users here in the United States. So just localizing that and what it means for people in different countries. And then just on the support side, providing support in different languages is just a barrier. I speak like a little bit of Portuguese and Spanish, so I can fake my way through. But we wanted to make sure that we got all our FAQs translated and that we had on staff people that were people that are available, just as available as our English support team, to be there for our customers.
Great. Something that just stood out is really kind of matching that functionality. I haven't heard that term in terms of, going to different markets. So great insight there, Jeremy. So how is really, and maybe it hasn't, so this couldn't be a non-question, but how is your kind of user acquisition strategy kind of adjusted as you've started to saturate these new markets, or kind of has everything been streamlined and worked kind of perfectly?
I think that we have adjusted to the feedback that we've gotten from our customers. Like I said, our content varies, our content availability varies by region, and we're always catching up. Our first priority is that product that we offer here in the U.S. and in English, because that's where the majority of our user base is. So we're always just like a little bit behind on the other markets that where we're available. So like our marketing team has taken the feedback from our users to really try to tailor our international marketing message to how the experience is different in each market.
Great. So are you by gathering that feedback and delivering it to your marketing team, are you guys identifying any global patterns that really kind of affect how your support organization is run, or has it helped shift any sort of roles, responsibilities?
Yeah, I mean, one thing, just as an example, is when we early on launched in Latin America, so we are both a free model where you can watch for free on the site with ads, or we offer a subscription premium where you can watch with no ads and in HD in all of our platforms. And we noticed pretty quickly that people in Latin America, were really anxious to subscribe, but did not have the means to do so, or the cards that they were using were failing. So, just pulling out that trend and making sure, the other people in our organization knew that these were the obstacles for people to join has, shaped how we're going to offer that product in the future.
Awesome. So how are you keeping this process organized and, kind of uncomplicated? You said you're a very small team, but you're working in a lot of different markets. So kind of what is like the secret sauce that you and your team follow to make sure that, one, the business stays healthy, your customers remain happy, but also that you continue automating certain parts of the business and keep things innovative?
Yeah, I think a big thing is just kind of that sense of shared responsibility. So, everyone on the team knows what their responsibilities are within the work that we do. And, sharing it makes it so that, not just one person is overwhelmed. And it just really ensures that everything is getting done the best way possible, instead of one person taking all the responsibility and just trying to cut corners to get everything done.
Awesome. So do you encourage innovation within your team? I know we've talked a lot about transparency with your community, but being such a small team, I mean, are you guys transparent with each other to make sure that you get to try new programs or that you're utilizing HelpShift in the best way? How do you motivate each other and keep things fresh and innovative within the Dramafever team?
Yeah, I mean, I really rely on the people on my team to tell me what is working and what isn't working and what we need to do. And I know that they know best because they are the ones, on the front line, seeing that volume day in and day out. They see, there's metrics that we can track, and we can track how often people are contacting us about a certain issue. But there's also just kind of a sentiment that you feel when you're responding to individual issues that doesn't bubble up in numbers. So I really just rely on people on my team to let me know what that is and what we can and should be doing next.
Great. And we are kind of at the top of the half hour here. So I have just two more questions before we kind of wrap things up. What are kind of the top three things? You said you've been at Dramafever for 2 years, so I'm going to just condense it down. Just in the last 6 months, what are the top three things that you've learned, and how have you taken those learnings and applied them to make your team successful? And I'll give you a second to think about that, because I'm not sure if that one was outlined during our quick briefing yesterday. But for the people on the audience who are either thinking about launching an app or that have an app and are thinking about scaling their support team, and driving down the cost of user acquisitions, kind of what are the things that you've learned, and can you share them with us?
Sure.
Or if it's two works too, just, kind of very high level, kind of what's kind of your homework, I guess I could say, to the people on the call today.
Yeah. One of the biggest things that I'm always just thinking about or amazed by is just people's reaction to change. The product is always evolving, and it can't stay the same. And within the past few months, we completely redid the way that we think about our premium members and just different options that we're offering for them. So that's a big part of our business, and a big part of the customer support that we offer is support to those premium members. So it was, scary for me to think about doing something completely different and new and just kind of those unknowns. But, we really did everything that we could to learn before we launched that how people would react, what the issues that people would have. So, I ended up.
What were the lessons learned? It sounds like you guys offer some sort of like concierge service for your kind of you're paying watchers, you're paying viewers. So how do you segment that to make sure even the people that are using, your app just to stream for free, how do you make sure that they're happy while also catering to the payers?
Yeah. We really want to have more touch points for our premium members. We want to reach out to them and make sure that everything is going okay on their end and identify issues proactively and before they even have to contact us. Whereas with our free viewers, we're dealing with significantly larger volume of people. We want to try to cut down the contact that they would send to us, but not minimize their feedback.
Got it. So kind of last question, how are you and the Dramafever team continuing to deliver that brand promise? Kind of what are your goals for the next 6 months?
Our goal, one of our biggest goals is just how can we continue to provide this level of support that we're doing as we branch out into new content verticals. So I said recently we launched Doc Club, which is our site for documentary films, and in the next few weeks we're launching Shutter, which is our site for horror. So how can we kind of scale this support team across all these different verticals? And at the same time, how can we, as individual team members, adapt to this new brand and voice that each of these verticals presents? So that's definitely the challenge that we're going to be working on now.
Great. Well, I definitely look forward to checking in with you in the next couple of months and seeing how that's going. Jeremy, on behalf of the HelpShift team, thank you so much for joining our third part of this 6-part webinar series around scaling customer support and really the value of listening and engaging with your community to see success and to drive down the cost of user acquisition. Anything else for the audience before I wrap it up?
No, I'm good. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And as I said, next time you're in San Francisco, I definitely owe you a thank you lunch for joining and providing this great insight. That said, I'm thrilled to announce that next week we will be hosting an exclusive, what we're calling a pop-up webinar with some very exciting and exclusive insight from the founders of Get Social, who will be in town for the Venture Beat conference. So that will be held on Thursday, and it's going to be uncovering the secrets to stronger retention for your mobile game. So definitely encourage everybody on the call to stay tuned for more details for this kind of exclusive pop-up webinar. So just wanted to leave you with that thought. And Jeremy, enjoy your wonderful afternoon in New York City. And thank you again for joining our call.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.